Good morning, Popper. Decided that it was time to do a care video on this guy because I think he is my most interesting fish. And he definitely has the most exacting requirements as far as all my fish go. So, I keep thinking I'm gonna give him a name, but nothing's really sticking. He's like, I think Genie. So I got him from one of my friends who is a manager at a pet store down in SoCal. And I mentioned to her that, I was thinking about getting a puffer fish. And then she was like, I have the perfect fish for you. And at the time, I almost had my heart set on a figure eight. Like, I was thinking I was going to be setting up my first brackish water tank and all that. And she's like, no, this puffer is perfect for you. And it's completely freshwater, and it's a really, really small puffer fish. But it's not a dwarf puffer. And I was like, really? And then she kept telling me about him and how cute he was and how he came in mistakenly in a shipment with Oaxaca puffers. Like, if you could imagine this tiny little guy with these gigantic puffer fish, because Oaxacas are like really large freshwater puffer fish. And they're huge compared to this guy. And he just came in on accident, and then she had him in the back and was trying to find a good home for him. And that's whenever I started thinking that I wanted a puffer fish. And I'm so glad she brought him to our last California Betta Society show. She always drives up with a posse of our Betta friends from SoCal. And there he was. And she named him Superman. And I really like it. But for some reason, it's not sticking for me. Like, I think about him as Superman. I think about him, someone earlier on when I first got him, someone commented the name Astro, which I love. But a lot of the times I just think of him as kind of the puffball puff. So anyway, his name kind of changes, I guess. Okay, this is really cute. So this is a male red-eye, red-bellied pufferfish. And you can tell he's a male, one, because of this pattern on the top of his forehead. It's got these really bold patterns. Females are more modeled, apparently. And his little red belly, he's doing it kind of right now. Yeah, so when he's excited, his belly kind of pushes up into a little crest. Yeah, you can see it's kind of a line on his belly. Come on, go up. There we go. It's kind of a line on his belly. I haven't fed him today, so he's incredibly excited. So yeah, that's how I can tell he's a male. He's only, let's see, here's my finger. So he's like an inch and a half. This is his full size. And, well, actually, I don't know. He's more, yeah, it's hard to estimate. Maybe I can try and get a ruler. 1 second. Okay, let's see if this freaks him out. I have a ruler. And I'm just gonna hold it up to the tank. You can see how small he is. He's like half an inch wide. And like maybe an inch long. He's like, what is this? He's like, yeah, he's like an inch long. So they recommend like a 10-gallon minimum tank size for one puffer fish because of this size, because they're very wasteful eaters. And then 20 being preferred. He is in a 10-gallon tank all by himself, no other fish. I have it heated to around 78 degrees Fahrenheit. So they're a warmer tropical fish, 78 degrees Fahrenheit. In the back, you'll see that I have two filtration systems, or three, I guess, if you count the plants. So I have this hang-on back, filter. It's a hang-on back wet dry filter. It's the only hang-on back filter I've had in years, but I got it. It was rated up to 40 gallons, and inside it I have crushed lava rock, and I think that's all I have in there actually. I have a lot of crushed lava rock. Okay, I have a sponge on the intake back there. You can see that. And these guys don't like a lot of current, so what I've done is I've stuffed a spawning mop in the outtake. And this is great too because I hate the sound of running water. I know it's a little weird because I'm surrounded by water, but I hate the sound of water falling, like the sound of waterfalls. And this is good because having that spawn mop stuffed into the outtake, it provides this continuous path for the water to get into the tank, and so there's no sound, and there's also not a lot of flow that way, so that he doesn't get swept away by the flow. Look at him, he's like, you're here but you're not doing anything. So anyway, and then there's also, all of my tanks have sponge filters, so there's also a sponge filter there as well. And you can see it's pointed in different directions. So there is circulation, but just not like super fast circulation, because without the spawn mop in that hang-on back, there's way too much circulation, way too much water pressure, water circulation, I guess. And so I have the sponge filter there. I have some live plants, and then I have this pothos, which is growing out of control, which is lovely. I love pothos plants, and you can see it's actually doing really well underneath this relatively weak LED light that I built. So, and then the pothos roots suck out a lot of nitrate from the water. So even though he's only in a 10-gallon tank, I've never had trouble with water parameters. Everything's constantly at 0. So as to food, my puffer's staple are baby ram's horn snails. So you can see this size right here. It's pretty small, but he's quite small too. So this is about the size that I feed him. I can feed him larger size, even up to this, but then he can't crack through the shell, and then he's just gonna like bite the body, and half of it's still gonna be there inside and pollute the tank unless you take the shell out. And you want one that he can actually break apart, which is a really small snail. Like these snails I think are only a couple weeks old. So I just pull him out of the nursery and go to his tank. This might be a little difficult one-handed, but you just put him in there. Yep, crunch, crunch, that's what you want to hear. Yeah, he just devoured that. Yum, yum. So the other staple food for my pufferfish is here in the freezer. Definitely don't want to leave the chocolate out. Isn't that funny? Anyway. So you see I have a cup of tank water here. This is some food I made for him, oh my goodness, in October. Now what is in here is I just went to Safeway, any regular old grocery store. You go into the fresh seafood aisle, and then you pick out, I have raw shrimp with the shell on. It's really important that it's raw and that it has the shell on. Okay, so raw shrimp with the shell on. There are some live, they were fresh live mussels, and also fresh live clams. What I did is I brought them home, really simple, chopped them up into small pieces, okay, and then I packed it flat and frozen. So as you can see, every time I go in here and pick up food for him, it's going to be slightly different. So I'm just going to feed him a really small piece. If this was the only thing I was feeding him right now, I would probably defrost this chunk, which does seem large, right? But I'll show you in a minute why it's okay, for me anyway. Well, let's do these 2 small pieces. So it's going to be a variety. I think it's mainly the raw shrimp. And it was really cheap, and this is going to last for a long time. You can see I made this in October, and this is all he's eaten until now. So anyway, this is kind of his staple, along with the snails. He also loves to eat some frozen thawed brine shrimp, and I'm going to feed this to some of my other fish too. So I'm going to get a couple of these. Normally, I would just feed him one of the foods that I'm showing you right now. But because it's a demonstration, I'm going to feed him all the foods. He's going to be real happy. So I've tried feeding him krill, and he didn't really like it. Maybe your puffer's different. They can be really picky. But mine wasn't a big fan of krill. You can also feed them bloodworms in addition to brine shrimp. I just know that mine really likes brine shrimp. Every time I feed him the frozen food, I put a little bit, like a couple drops of Vitachem on here. So a lot of the shellfish, especially like the oysters and mussels, are really high on, oh gosh, I forget what it's called. Anyway, they highly recommend like vitamin B12 supplementation, which isn't in here. That's why I have it over here. So I got this. So here is the Vitachem that I put on my frozen food. Complete vitamin supplement. So this is just every time I feed frozen food. And normally I would let this soak for like 10 minutes while it's defrosting. So Vitachem. That's for all my fish too, not just my puffer fish. So he's got that. I'm just gonna go let this sit for 15 minutes, come back. Okay, so I'm going to feed one of these. Oops, see if I can do it without having to use my hand. Looks like both of these are shrimp. Oh man. I need to get tweezers, that's what I need. Alright, if I can't do this one-handed, I'm just gonna, or with the thing rather. Okay, so here, size comparison. Okay, drop it in, he goes after it. Raw shrimp with the shell still on and some multivitamins on it. Now you can see he's an incredibly messy eater. So these guys, you're gonna have to do water changes at least once a week, 50% more. And one good thing about this particular puffer, usually puffer fish like to eat ghost shrimp, but as you can see, for some reason my puffer fish doesn't like to eat his ghost shrimp friends. So I have like half a dozen ghost shrimp that actually live in the tank with him. Purely by coincidence, I know he does eat them occasionally, because not all of them survive. Like, I've put in probably 20 shrimp into his tank, and there are like, I think 6 or 7 that have stuck around the past, however, let's see, I got him in October, November, December, January. So I've had him for about 3 months, and there are like 6 shrimp that have survived to this day. And it's pretty funny because they actually breed in here. However, ghost shrimp can't complete their life cycle in pure fresh water, so I don't have any shrimplets, unfortunately. But oftentimes I'll have buried shrimp in here, and they do an amazing job of cleaning up after my pufferfish, so which is a really nice perk. Generally, they recommend that you do not keep any other fish with red eye, red belly puffers. They're best in a species tank because they are a little bit aggressive. So another treat that I love to give my puffer are whiteworms, and this is only a treat. This definitely should not be fed to him every day, but I'm pretty sure these are his absolute favorite. So again, this is a treat. Oops, that's a lot of treats, but it's okay. Man, he just goes crazy on these things. So he loves whiteworms too. And I'm sure he would love blackworms. I personally don't feed blackworms. I feel like every time I feed them, there's just a higher chance for some sort of bacterial infection. The sources I have here really don't have good blackworms. Like, it seems like all the blackworms are stored improperly, and I found all sorts of disgusting things in blackworms I brought home from the store. I found flatworms, I found planaria, I found all sorts of terrible things. So I just don't touch blackworms. I like whiteworms because they are really easy to culture. One thing is he loves whiteworms, but he doesn't like grindleworms. Grindleworms are too small. They don't really appeal to him as a food item. Oh yeah, let's feed him a little bit of the frozen brine shrimp as well. He's just getting all the food today. So normally you want to feed him enough food that he's about, he could eat a little bit more, not too much more. Let's see how he goes for that. So, yep, this is frozen thawed brine shrimp. You don't want to overfeed your puffer. And make sure the main staple of his diet has something crunchy like snails or that kind of thing. Snails, shrimp with the shell on, etc. So I have to say, feeding him is a real highlight to my day. I feed him once a day. Normally not every kind of food that I feed him like I just did. Oh, look at that belly. Oh my gosh, that belly. So one final thing I almost forgot to mention is that pretty much all puffers, red eye, red belly puffers that I know of are wild caught. I don't think there has been a ton of captive breeding success, and if so, it certainly hasn't been commercialized. So one thing you'll have to make sure to do is to deworm your puffer fish as soon as you get it. They often come in riddled with parasites, and mine was no exception. He had a pretty bad worm infestation, and when he was really stressed after I first brought him home, he started like pooping out tons of whiteworms in his feces right away. So this was really, really easy to treat with praziquantel, which is a really, really safe medication. Actually, let me just pull it out. This is my med box. Let's see, where's the fish. So this would work. Fish bendazole would work. Prazi did really well on him though. Where did my Prazi Pro go? Oh, there it is. Okay, so Prazi Pro, this stuff did really, really well on him. Just cleared him out immediately, and there were no adverse side effects. It's a pretty mild medication, and so I wasn't worried to use it on him, because pufferfish are considered like scaleless fish, and they might be a little more sensitive. At least that's what people say. I don't personally know. I just know that the praziquantel worked really well on him, and he immediately defecated out all the worms he had, and I haven't seen any since. So deworming your new pupper would be a good thing to do. And there he goes. He's like, you're not gonna feed me anymore, so I'm just gonna leave. Aren't those eyes crazy? Anyway, thank you for watching. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I wish you luck with just even finding these things is hard, but if you are able to find one, they make excellent pets. They are really fun, interactive, and just too darn cute.